Oh, there she is.
There we are. Welcome to Over 50, starting over on Barry Edwards.
And I'm Earl Garrison.
All right. And we actually did our show last Thursday because I had a gig going on. I took my mom and Lisa and my brother and sister-in-law. We took my mom down south to Amish country. And I'm going to show you a few photos. And the reason that I really want to open up with this is because up front, we typically do something of a
my gosh.
And self-improvement. Yeah. And I think this is a great idea. Like, this was my mom's 80th birthday. Big deal, big milestone. And actually it's not really for another week. And we got something else planned for next week that I'll share with you. But so we went to Amish country 2 hours south of us, and we got this treehouse, so to speak. I know most of you are listening and seeing
this is beautiful, Barry.
This is a house, a luxurious house on stilts in the forest, and it was the coolest thing. Like, I'll say we paid a lot for this one night.
I can only imagine. I mean, this is a deluxe.
This is in Amish country itself. There's it looks a lot like that. It's a very quaint area, a lot of fun. Oh, you see way down here, that's Lisa, my mom, and my brother and sister-in-law. Very
how cool.
I just wanted to show you a few of these
trying
things.
To get away from you.
It was so fun. And this typically wouldn't be my kind of thing. You're just going around shopping and stuff, a fake horse and buggy.
I was like, that is one shiny horse.
Right. But it was the quaintest place ever. 2 days is perfect. Now we're back inside the treehouse.
That is beautiful.
I got a lot
out of here.
Yeah, I got a lot of good pictures here. Okay. And this is looking down at night. That's my mom down there.
That is really neat.
And just another view from upstairs.
Wow.
I had a wrap around outdoor porch or patio, whatever you want to call it, and upstairs and downstairs. And look at that kitchen. And I'm telling you,
really cool.
This was like spare no expense kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And Merle, like, check out these what do you call these? Like these lights, the fixtures.
I like
the pipes and stuff.
Yeah.
Everything
that's
was like
really
that.
neat.
So well
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, one last picture. And again, the kitchen. I got an awful lot of the kitchen.
That's important.
I do have, I'm going to stop this share for a moment because I want to share something else. It's about a 15-second video of our evening outside. And here it is. And I got to share the sound with this because we experienced everything in 24 hours. No, you're asking for a password. Let me think here.
Don't you hate that?
Yes. That's like for about an hour. It was so cool. Do you hear it?
Oh, look at that. Yes, I do.
Okay. It's like a rainforest.
That is outstanding. Look at that.
Look at that.
Oh, jeez.
It is so cool.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Look at that. And you're like really secluded in there.
Yeah.
That
so
is really
fun.
Awesome.
I share that not as self-indulgent. I share it as an idea that if you have someone to honor on a milestone birthday like this, I've always been a strong believer in experiences over possessions, over physical things. You can't take this away. Well, Alzheimer's good, but an experience like this, I can only speak for myself, but I enjoyed every single second of that, 2 days. And I know my mom did. She expressed that over and over again. And I know she was blown away. She had no idea. What a surprise.
Barry, that is so awesome. And you're right. I mean, I know that, you put a lot into these kinds of things and it's expensive and all, but those penny. Memories that come out of it are priceless. And, and they're, you can just and you take pictures and you can relive the whole thing. And you're exactly right. It took me a while to realize what you just said about, the experience versus possessions. And you're exactly right. I couldn't agree with you more. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Happy birthday to your mom. Her birthday is actually this week.
20, I think it's the 28th. I get it confused. Okay. 26th or 28th. Gotcha. But we're doing something else on the 25th that she doesn't know about. And I got to unveil some stuff, and I'll share that with you. Everybody in the family's getting into this, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. My mom deserves it so much. She's been the matriarch of our entire extended family for so long, and has kept us together like a glue, and made it. We're tight. It's strong. And man, I have a wonderful family. Like, there's not many kids, so it's a more mature family, which is nice when you get over yourselves. Speak about me mostly. Get more mature and just really appreciate all of these little things,
Yeah, I wanted to just go back to that rainstorm out there. I mean, what a beautiful and relaxing thing. To sit on. It's
like we're blessed. Yeah.
Oh gosh, and it doesn't rain like that here in California. I haven't seen rain like that in a long time, and it's just so refreshing just to even see it on that video. I got a question. You're out in the middle of the woods and you're in Ohio. Were you guys getting eaten up by mosquitoes out there?
No, that's always a great time to bring Lisa out, because they all gravitate to her like a magnet.
That's how it is with me.
I never get bit.
They love me.
Is that right? That's funny.
Yeah. They just put me in the corner, and then they all just come over towards me.
Oh, that's so irritating. Yeah, as you mentioned that, it doesn't seem like I've had a issue with mosquitoes in years, actually.
Is that right? That is beautiful. Now out here, this is like one of the beautiful things about California, right? Is that you go outside and there's no bugs. You go riding your bicycle. It's not like it's raining bugs in your face. Like I did the over by Towpath Trail, that would happen. But
we have
just within the last year, a particular type of mosquito has actually moved in. And so I actually have a bunch of mosquito bites on me right now. Really? It's very unusual. Yeah. And so these mosquitoes have evolved. They are extremely fast. When they bite, you don't feel it. And they only bite from the knee down.
Oh my God, these things sound like they're genetically engineered in a horror
movie. What I mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you go outside, you're like, hey, that was great. And then like 10 minutes later, after you come inside, you're like, hey, what happened?
So do they itch then?
They itch really badly. And also when they bite you, they only take how mosquitoes typically, they'll land on you and you can feel the bite, but then they don't leave right away and you can just get them right away. Right. These aren't like that. They bite and they leave right away. And you can't feel it, and then they'll bite you again. They'll bite you multiple times, and if you get one in your bedroom at night, you are a goner. They will eat you up.
A little melodramatic.
I woke up the other morning and I was like, what happened to me? Just they got me on more than above my knee or below my knees. It was all over. I'm like, what happened?
Hey man, I want to ask you quickly, because we got a lot to go over, and I do want to say that I'm sorry, I got a message there. I wanted to say that I want to hopefully get on a conversation with BitCoin about you and discuss it, define it a little bit. But while you're talking about California, I wanted to see what the latest is with Newsom. I hear that the race, if you want to call it that, for the recall is extremely close.
It is really close. It's razor thin right now. It's all within the margin of error. I think last I saw it was like 48.2% keeping him. And then it was 47 point whatever percent to recall him. So it's really, really close.
And I think Larry Elder is leading the pack as the replacement, right?
He's really got no competition here as far as how far ahead he is.
Caitlyn Jenner's got 2%.
Yeah, Caitlyn just kind of faded away. We don't see Caitlyn publicity on television anymore. Yeah, it's too bad that happened like that. Anyway, but I'm kind of glad. I mean, I love Larry Elder, and I think he would be a tremendous blessing to this state. But I am concerned, though, because they already sent out all these mail-in ballots and everything, and we know that that's a recipe for weird things happening. We've seen it before. So I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens here. I am hopeful. I'm very hopeful that a change could happen. And I'm telling you, I am so tired of this Newsom leadership here. It is just awful. The decisions that he has made, along with our mayor here in Los Angeles, I mean, they're just everything's being destroyed. I mean, you saw it when you came down here and we went down to the beach, and it was like a third world country down there.
And
I mean, literally,
later,
like a third world country.
It's 10 times worse.
Yeah. It is. It's dangerous now. I mean, before it was like, wow, look at that. Now you get attacked down there. People are bad things are happening, and you know, people don't actually talk about this much, but they've got all of these little shanties and little makeshift houses and everything. And for a young woman going down there, it's awfully dangerous.
I think for anyone,
you're right. For
a lot of mental health issues going on.
That's what it is it's mental health. And we have a tremendous mental health problem here in this
we don't know how to deal with it.
Well, we've dealt with it all wrong. I mean, it's just, you know, the one thing is we don't want to, you know, just imprison people.
Well, that's how we've been dealing with it.
Yeah. So, but the answer isn't just let them just all go out in the street and live out and homeless. I mean, they're dying out there. But they're finding, you know, homeless bodies all over the place. That's a problem here. My son found one. He found a dead homeless person at a bus stop one time. Really? Him and his girlfriend.
Oh
yes.
My God.
And so, I mean, yes. Jeez. I mean, can you imagine? This is your reality. It sort of reminds me of what's her name?
Yummy Park. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and she was saying, you know, like she didn't think anything of seeing dead bodies at the train station. And oh boy, I listened to more of that because, and I mean,
chilling.
She is getting a lot of airtime. You know, she is becoming I am so glad.
Me too, because she's spreading awareness.
Her story. Yes, that's
opening up some eyes.
Right, right.
You know, I wanted to say one thing about that recall is the Larry Elder thing. This is just my opinion, but I think it's not a good thing for Larry Elder to be leading in the polls as the possible replacement, because he's so right. So far right of what California has always been, a shock to the system, that I think, and I gotta sneeze. Pardon me. What's with me and the sneezing on every podcast now?
You gotta hit your sneeze button.
Because I think that he will motivate a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't be motivated to even participate in the election, a re-election.
It is true.
So that means that Newsom's, happen. Yeah, Newsom's gonna, because it's so thin. The margin's so thin that I think that's probably what's gonna happen.
Well, they're pulling out all the stops. I mean, we've got this Elizabeth Warren commercial playing like 24/7, where really? she's categorizing this as the Trump takeover. And
there you go. Just throw Trump in there somehow or another. That makes no sense, but it does get people emotional.
It does. And you know, and it's typical Elizabeth Warren, where she's, you know, Liz Warren real mad. You know, don't you want to take over? And it's like,
what a joke.
Gosh, you know, it's almost like scratching a blackboard, because it's like no one's thinking about Trump. They're thinking about how terribly wrong this governor has been regarding California and the well-being of the citizens of this state. That's what this is about. Trump's not running for governor here. I mean, what the heck?
It would. That's so insulting to my intelligence, even though I'm not in California. I would think that everybody would feel like that. But so many people, especially in California, had that whole Trump derangement.
It's a trigger word.
It's a trigger word. There you go. And I think it does motivate people, unfortunately.
But as we have seen in the ratings for CNN and NBC and you know, all the others that are constantly, you know, trying to still revive the Trump narrative, that's really hurt them in the polls. People don't care about that as much as they did. In fact, very little. Yeah. And so, you know, I see what Newsom's desperate. He did not believe anything like this could ever happen. And so now, and this whole Trump thing, he's bandied that about. And it's always fallen on deaf ears. But now that this is really, it's coming down to the wire, and Larry Elder is coming on very strong. I mean, he is doubling down on the Trump takeover and the Republican takeover, and how scary it would be if the Republicans took over and destroyed everything that they so-called worked for. So it is a very interesting thing. It's not boring at all, and I just really want to see. I'm very hopeful that a change is going to happen here. And if it doesn't, it's going to be so demoralizing.
Oh, you guys are at the top, like a peak here, the precipice, because I swear to God, and I believe this more and more every day, that the left is trying to make California a liberal elite paradise. And they're squeezing out the middle class completely. And they're quite happy about doing that. And so it's either now or never. Yeah. I mean, this is a tipping point.
I really believe it is. And I that's why I'm so hopeful that Larry Elder can win, so that we can kind of, I think it would signal to the rest of the country, right, that, change has to happen. And if it could happen in California, that it could happen anywhere.
Hey, that's good.
So,
Merle, we got a lot to go over here. I wanted to talk about Bitcoin if you're ready to. And then, of course, we got to get to the goings on in Afghanistan, to complete hysteria that's going on there. And I got some really great lighter side stuff. In fact, I got a music video at the end to take us out. It's hilarious.
I love it.
Funny.
Right,
it's very funny. So did you brush up on some of that Bitcoin stuff and find it fascinating?
Know what? I did not. I can't even believe that I forgot to do that. And as soon as you said Bitcoin, I was like, oh man,
that's fine, man. You want to push it a week?
We could, but I would like for you to give me just like an overview here of your thoughts on Bitcoin, if you could.
Well, I was hoping that I'd be able to bounce it off of you, because I might bastardize this a little bit. But what I got out of it, now these guys that did the Jordan Peterson podcast were in various economic backgrounds and gravitated to Bitcoin with just a fascination in it, and have spent the last 2 years learning about it and philosophizing about it. So what I got out of it in my short education on this is it's okay. So it's all electronic. All right. So instead of the gold being backed by gold, which we no longer really are.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not
so
here in America.
We manipulate the crap out of our economy now, which is really at a scary point. And so this is kind of like, what I want to say, putting the rational back into economics, because a Bitcoin will be on servers all over the world, and it will be behind the various encryptions. Okay. But the person that owns that Bitcoin will be the only one to have the particular key encryption. All right. And so all of these, so it's like, it's the internet. These are all interconnected, and however that Bitcoin is spent throughout its entire lifetime is recorded. Every transaction is recorded, and who it belonged to, where it went, and so on. So this is in the way that is incorruptible, that it has a living, breathing identity online, and it's dispersed across so many servers that it can't really be, you can't hack them all. And, one change in one thing is going to put out alarms as to, hey, this thing is no longer copacetic. Now, so then some terminology comes into play, like, what's the word? Chain. Is it, I want to say bit chain, blockchain. Okay, so blockchain is, I'm going to have to go back and refresh my memory on this stuff too. There is a good 14-minute video by Ben Shapiro on defining this stuff. And, you almost got to play him at 50% speed, because he talks
he's so fast. He does. He's so smart too.
And he doesn't waste a word.
What did he say?
Yeah. So, or watch it twice, however you want to do it. But he talks about blockchain. So even, Bitcoin, there are that's synonymous with what's the word? I got it here somewhere. What do I want to say? There's different kinds of cyber coins. What's that word? I don't have it right in my notes right here. But anyways, Bitcoin is the most popular one of these. And so blockchain, a block is created by these servers that verify a Bitcoin. And when they keep getting verified by additional accredited servers, that creates a chain of these blocks. Oh, cryptocurrency. I see it in my notes.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. So I'm trying to define some of these buzzwords that we're not clear on.
Like Dogecoin is a
there's a couple more that I'm not familiar with. Like Bitcoin's the only one that I'm it's
the most popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say. So what I think is very interesting is that it puts so much credibility back in our economic system and a non-manipulative kind of thing that it's gonna really put a kink into the World Bank and the Federal Reserve, which is,
I like to hear that.
Yeah, me too, man. That's what I really want to philosophize with you about as we get to learn more.
Yes. I
think that's the most important thing. Yeah,
I think you actually made me excited about it just now by what you said, especially at the end, because these people have caused, Federal Reserve, they caused the Great Depression that we had, and because of the decisions that they made that weren't right, and they have too much power over our currency right now. And I'd like to see that. It seems like there's an elite group of people that are completely in charge of my dollar's worth, and the Federal Reserve isn't even a part of our government. It's a privately held company. So
most people don't know that. Right?
How could that happen? I got a question for you, and that is, what I don't understand about this is how does a Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency coin get its value?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And I'm not super well versed on it, but they do explain it in these podcasts. And so there are X amount. And as I remember, if I remember right, the last one will be issued in 2140. So now know that economics, like gold, it's based on a big component is scarcity. That's where value comes from.
Yeah, of course.
It is something that has finite, unless you start firing up a printing press.
And you water it down.
So right now we're not backed on gold at all anymore. We're only backed on our reputation.
That's exactly right. It's all perception.
It's all perception. And that's the scary part of all this money we're printing up. And now all of a sudden we're so familiar with the word trillions rather than billions. That is just terrifying.
It is terrifying.
So so there's a finite amount of this Bitcoin. I don't know how that works. I really don't.
I was thinking that maybe it works like stock, where
it does, but it has to be finite in order for that value to increase. So Bitcoin is increasing in value as more people are perceiving the value. So whereas the dollar has lost value over the last couple of years, Bitcoin has increased by 200%.
We've seen this, right? And
so this is where you want to be looking.
The future, correct?
Correct.
Interesting. This is very interesting.
And so I can't wait to delve into this further after you check it out, because you just have a really high perception of this kind of thing, and it's going to be a great conversation.
And it's making me wonder about because as we see, the world is moving away from cash and moving to electronic type of currency.
I did years ago. I don't carry cash at all. And
I hardly ever carry cash too. And like, you go to a place where they're like cash only, it's like,
walk out.
Well, I'm later. Out. I got $1.
I hate to say it, but I did that at a little tiny family-owned Chinese restaurant here in Cleveland Heights some months ago. And they're really old, so that they're just doing things the old-fashioned way, and they're skimming on their taxes. That's why the few people that do cash only, it's because they get cheated on their taxes, because it's not the electronic record. Anyways, I go in to pick up my Chinese food, and I can barely understand what they're saying, to say the least. But that's what I got out of it, is no card, get cash. Go to ATM across the street.
Right.
I'm like, And I'm sorry, I left them holding their food. How many people do that? More.
Yeah,
They
I
got
bet
to
that
get
happens a
on. They
lot.
got to, they got to get a clue, because I'm sure that's happening to them every day.
Yeah.
But they're probably on the verge of retirement anyway. But boy, did I take that to the left.
But but cash is a pain in the butt. Yes. I mean, having to go to the bank machine or to the
everything,
bank, you go to the machine and it charges
pocket
you money
full of
to
coins.
Get cash. Yeah, now you got a bunch easy to steal or easy to misplace. I mean, we found some money the other day that somehow we had stashed away in a coffee pot or something. It was like, hey, there's $100 in here.
That's so funny.
How did that get there?
Yeah.
But anyway, we spent it immediately. Like that didn't last for it. Hey, let's go spend it. All right.
At Denny's.
It's interesting about cash though too. It does seem like if they tell you got to go to the bank machine and it's like $200 and you're like, it's so much easier to lay that card down and spend $200 so you don't have to see the cash. But then when you go to the machine and you pull the cash out, you're like 20.
Yeah. I don't know. I got over that a long time. I hate cash. It seems very archaic to me.
Right.
And,
I agree. Well,
because all I do,
like it's going away.
I just now these days I just pick up my phone, my card. That's an ATM card. It's not a credit card, so it comes right out of my checking account, and then I balance it once a year. I hate to say it. I'm supposed to do it once a month, but
I think with just along those subject though is what I'm going to be really interested in is exactly how the value of that cryptocurrency happens, because here, as you brought up, we used to have a gold standard, so the actual bill was representative of a physical asset, and then that went away, and now we've got all of these
hit
issues.
on it. It was representative. It is representative of an asset. Right. It's an avatar, basically.
Right. That's right.
And it's been manipulated. And that's the point, is now that, I'm using those avatars in another generation.
I understand
down the road. But if we replace that with Bitcoin, where it's actually solid and not manipulated, it can change our entire save our economy. And, there's some good segues here, because the manipulation that our government does, from the bank to our politicians to our military, the industrial military complex, it's okay. This is going to segue right into the Afghanistan.
Sure thing. Is.
And what is killing me, absolutely killing me, is learning about the trillions of dollars that we invested into another failure, a 20-year failure of a war that all it did was get defense contractors wealthy, drug warlords wealthy, and the Taliban weaponized and more in power than they've ever been. Their so-called Taliban government was a complete farce, and their military that they had on paper was a complete farce, just to get our tax dollars. And what I want to say right now, I'm going to let you take this away, but I want to say right now, middle class better get a 20% discount on their taxes now that we're out of there. They've stolen that much from us. And in fact, I want a refund. That's never going to happen.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
We need to put an end to this, and it is all happening with behind the scenes with our politicians and the generals, the military, and the defense contractors, which are lobbying, and they're just siphoning money out of us. And every president that comes in, I got to give Biden credit here. He didn't do it pretty. He did it very ugly, pulling out of there very ugly, and did a lot of things wrong, but he got us out of there. Trump started it. He followed that path and got us out of there and put an end to this. But I want to see these generals prosecuted for treason, basically.
Yeah.
Because every president comes in there, listens to these guys, gets bamboozled, and continues on with this draining of our, every week, this is all, I'm just complaining about the draining of our tax dollars and the waste of trillions of dollars. It is amazing to me, the amount of money they take from us.
It is astounding, Barry. And that we're letting them get away with this is a crime.
There should be prosecutions happening now that it's exposed.
There should be. And I just want to start with what you were saying, all of these things that were a farce. And I have learned in the last week a lot of things that I did not know about Afghanistan. And I had to ask myself, why did I not know this until now? Why?
We were lied to, man. That's why those generals would say to us constantly, I've seen the changing of the tide here. Total lie, over and over again. Oh, we're winning this war. We are, the Taliban is being reduced to nothing. We've heard all of this over and over again. And we saw the lie instantly exposed overnight.
We really did. And we also heard this, that, they had this standing army of like 250,000 Afghans. And then it was a lie. And by the way, here's what I didn't know is that the Afghan army was completely financed by our tax dollars.
That's my
100% of our tax dollars were propping up the Afghan military.
Military.
Here is the thing about that. And this is the point I was going to, Barry, is that what we ended up finding out is that our American tax dollars would go to a military general in Afghanistan, an Afghan military general who was in charge of putting together his platoon, his group, his unit, whatever you call it. But so he would send in the names of all these people that were in his particular unit. But the fact was, it was fake.
Yeah,
they weren't
phantom.
there.
Yeah.
So in other words, he was getting all that money and he was putting the money in his pocket.
Yeah.
And this was going on for 20 years. And now here's the other thing is you talk about the generals that knew very well that this was going on, but we have a thing called freedom of the press, and we have reporters that are embedded into these organizations, and they didn't say boo about this.
The mainstream media
we're seeing every day anyhow, because they censor the truth. They give their leftist friends a break all of the time. They give Joe Biden a break all the time. They attack those people that they just don't like, even if they're telling the truth. They attack the truth. I mean, now we find out that they've kept this whole charade going in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, the poor American citizen is doling out tremendous tax dollars, taking food off of their table, giving it to these warlords over in Afghanistan for 20 years so they can buy drugs and prostitutes or whatever they're doing with it. They're corrupt, obviously. And we didn't know anything about this, not one thing about this. How in the world our system has failed.
Here's one positive, is that this is so exposed now because of the internet, not because of our media. That's for sure. This would still be completely covered up.
I agree. I totally agree.
Okay. So we've seen this repeatedly, whether it's Vietnam, Iraq, countless others, we're still embedded into all kinds of other countries that are, the debate is still always going to go on with Israel and Palestine, as if we need to once again choose a side and dig our heels in there and try to figure that out for them. And we can't do it. We can't do it. We fail. We not only fail, the complete opposite happens. We make everything worse every time we go in, like Iraq, like Vietnam, like this. So maybe we can create enough of awareness now that we put an end to it, that we demand that we stop doing this, because the only people that benefit is defense contractors, the politicians, and whoever is the corrupt party on the other end.
You're right about that. You're exactly right about that. I think there's two things to think about here. And the first part is exactly what you said. But then since we already are there, then there's another responsibility that we have, because the way that I see it is this way, is that we were there for 20 years. We helped them change their culture. We helped these women to be liberated and free in the government and everything. And to me, we had a responsibility to help to maintain that. And we had 2,500, under the Trump administration, we had scaled all the way down to 2,500 troops. That's it. This is why we have seen, you brought up Vietnam several times, which I agree. There's similarity is unbelievable between the two here, but we can look at other pullouts as well, where we've won the war. World War II, for example, we stayed in Germany, we stayed in Japan. We still have active military in those areas, but the transition that those countries had was fantastic for those countries. Now, if we would have just up and left, we could, because, hey, we can't fight these 20, 30, 40-year wars or whatever. Those places, I think those are models for success. You don't keep people, you don't keep, millions of troops over there, but you keep a contingent over there to help them to keep the peace. And that's really what we had going on with 2,500 troops is not a big investment when you consider what happened in Afghanistan this past week. Barry,
it's still, how long did we keep them there?
Forever? Well, hold on. Let me just make this point. We actually had the Guantanamo prisoners from 9/11. We sent them to Afghanistan. When the Taliban came in, they liberated all of those terrorists. Those people are flaming mad and they want revenge. And right now we have a big open door on our southern border. We know people are coming in from something like 130 different countries there with just free access. What we just did was we opened up Pandora's box for these terrorists now to now, before Afghanistan was a breeding ground for terrorism, now it's a hyper breeding ground for terrorism. And those people will be exported from Afghanistan to all parts of the world. But the number one target is the United States. And so
I
what
follow
we just
you, Merle,
did
but
was
we were failing.
The world.
We were arming, we were financing the Taliban, and we weaponized them. We made things worse.
We made things worse by giving over all of those weapons to the Taliban.
We were financing them for 20 years.
Well, we weren't financing the Taliban.
Well, indirectly. We were financing everyone over there. Everyone we shouldn't have.
We weren't giving weapons to the Taliban. We weren't giving military bases to the Taliban. We weren't giving airports to the Taliban or airplanes. We just gave them all of that these past couple of weeks. We gave them all of our military bases. We gave them our embassy. We gave them our airplanes and our drones and our guns. It couldn't be worse. But
so I'm just saying we grew them for 20 years. We had enabled that to the Taliban to grow in strength for all of this time. We did not.
I'm not sure I understand that part.
We were told repeatedly that we were eliminating the Taliban, that they were nearly eliminated.
Right.
And you see overnight that was a total lie, a complete lie. They grew exponentially. And
here's what we didn't see.
We're financing all the crooked people over there.
I understand what you're saying. This had to be, the way this was being run was terrible. We didn't know that it was being run like this.
Yeah, fake
but
government.
The fact is, what we've seen in the past few weeks, or especially in the past week, is mass carnage. These people are going house to house right now. They're looking for people that are traitors, and they're murdering them. They're actually going and looking inside of people's cell phones, their smartphones, to see if they have Bible applications in there. And if they do, they're murdering them immediately. We have a serious issue there that wasn't happening when we were there. We weren't having mass carnage like that happening. In fact, up until recently, over the last 2 years, not one American death has happened over there. So this
has been a peace treaty. Yeah.
And
that was to expire because we agreed to get out of there by now. So that if we broke that peace treaty, we would have been back in a war with the Taliban in another 20-year do nothing except siphon money out of middle class America.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know.
Seems obvious.
Negotiation is an interesting thing, Barry. I don't believe that there were any kinds of negotiations to try to extend that or anything like that. And this is what I heard Joe Biden say, is he inherited this plan from Donald Trump. But every other plan that he inherited from Donald Trump, he eliminated on day one. So he could have did. Donald Trump took the Iran deal and he renegotiated it. Nobody was happy about that, but presidents have that ability. And we just see blame happening now.
Dude, I would not want him to renegotiate another 10, 20 years of failure over there.
I understand that, but is this what you wanted? But is this
of course not? No,
I don't think. What I'm saying is that
it's not a one or another. Pick your side, dig your heels.
I agree.
It's a horrible situation. It was 20 years of a horrible situation. Horrible situation. Get out of it. Not going to say that he did some kind of amazing job of getting out of there. I think it was horrible planning in every regard. But still, I think if Trump was in charge and got us out of there, however he got us out of there, imagine what the mainstream media would do with him. With the horrible situation that would inevitably happen.
Well, hold on a second. I don't think there's everything that happened was inevitable. For instance, I didn't say that. No, I think Biden did a horrible job of executing. Right. All right. Well, I'm saying that this could have been handled much differently. This evacuation could have been handled much differently, and it didn't have to happen like this. We've stranded 15,000 Americans that can't get to the airport right now, and we put something out that said that in order for them to fly home, they'll have to pony up $2,000, and they don't have safe passage to the airport. We know that the Taliban's going door to door. They're looking for these people to kill them. And that, to me, is the number one thing, is that if you're going to evacuate the military, well, you got to get the civilians out first in order to protect them. That's just 101 warfare kind of stuff right there. And that didn't happen. And when you see the horrific airport scenes, I've never seen any. I mean, we saw the Saigon thing, and it was really horrible. But I mean, we saw people falling off of airplanes. I mean, what the heck? Airplanes taking off with huge crowds. We heard that airplanes rolled over people. And I mean, there were kids that were on that just fell off of the airplanes. And these are catastrophic things that are, that's never going to go away. I mean, this is never going to go away. And the coldness in which our president referred to it on several occasions this week, I'm astounded by. I'm just astounded by it. Do we want 20-year wars, forever wars? No, but we certainly want to minimize or take the precautions, at least the elementary precautions, to prevent what we just saw from happening. It seems like there was a lot of common sense things that should happen. And you're right, Barry. It turns out that our military leaders have been lying to us all along. They
should be facing charges of treason.
They should be. And you know what? This one military leader, is it Milken? What is his last name? He's the guy that we've seen him talking about how important it is to for this critical race theory thing in the military. Right. And he's so focused on that and white rage. And yet he's got this total catastrophe happening in Afghanistan that he obviously knew about. I saw that guy come on TV recently and say that there was no indication that anything like what we're seeing would happen. I mean, talk about incompetence.
Here's another thing, Merle. I just want to throw this out. You made me think of this, is that obviously you believe that Biden could have done a much, much better job of executing the end of this war. And I agree, but how difficult or impossible would that be with these corrupt generals who don't want this war to end? Never wanted this war to end.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is impossible. That when if you're, this is where intelligence comes in, our national intelligence and our intelligence advisors. They had to have known what was happening there. And even if the generals weren't telling the president that's the job of our national intelligence, the CIA, to say, here's exactly what's happening and here's what the problem is. And it seems like what we're seeing right now is that our intelligence is saying, oh, we said all these things would happen, and the president is saying, no, you didn't, and look at the transcripts, but we'll never have the transcripts, so we'll never know.
They're caught with their hands in the cookie jar because
that's what's happening.
They're covering their butt like, oh my God, we can't believe what happened. What? Yeah, and that's you're wrong one way or the other. Either your intelligence is not intelligent, or you've been lying to us the whole time.
Clearly, either you've been lying to us or you're a liar. Right?
Yeah, it's one or the other. Right?
Yeah, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. I mean, Barry, I've sat in front of the TV watching these images, and it's caused me to cry. I mean, this is an awful, awful thing on so many different levels. Like for instance, what have you heard what the people in the UK are saying about the decision to pull out? They're saying that, we weren't the only country in there. Great Britain was in there as well. And they're saying that Biden made this decision unilaterally and left them high and dry. And now they're left to pick up the pieces, and they don't have they're saying, hey, now we're going to have to rely on France. We're going to have to rely on our European Union friends because we know we can't rely on the president. And they did a resolution in the House of Commons. And it was I can't remember what you call it, but it was basically saying that Joe Biden had dishonored the West and dishonored his allies. So I think it did a terrible thing to our allies and the trust that our allies have. I mean, we've got a track record now of going, just as you said, going into these countries and leaving them a lot worse than they were at the end. And like, who would want us to come and help them? I mean, I don't know. We're not the world's police officers either, but man, this is like I said, this is bad on so many levels.
And here's the thing. It's especially, you made the point a while ago about World War II, we stayed in Germany, did this, that, or the other, Japan. That's not the Middle East. The Middle East is never, not in our lifetimes, ever going to find any semblance of peace, and we're not going to be able to make it and force that to happen. So we just need to put an end to this. It's exposed. We know that it's all a farce. We know our military wants to be in forever wars so that they can siphon the money out of us. So totally exposed. Maybe the good that comes out of this is we put an end to this kind of thing.
Well, I think you're right about that. And I also think you're making a really good point about the difference between Japan and Germany and Afghanistan, because Japan was a country led by Hirohito. He was the emperor. Germany was led by the Führer, Hitler. In Afghanistan, we found, this is another new thing that I found out, is that it's not really a country. It's all like run by tribes.
It's almost like depends on who you talk to over there.
Yeah. Like who's in charge of this place?
This guy. No, this guy.
Exactly. It's those guys. No,
right.
So how are you gonna help a country when they're not really a country? I mean,
it's kind of like a giant Mexican cartel going on.
You go like, okay, so they're in the capital, Kabul, and my impression was, okay, they got this nerve center in Kabul, and that's like a Washington D.C. kind of thing, and it's the whole country and everything. Nope, that's just Kabul. Yeah. But every other city is like another country. And they don't care about what they say in Kabul. They want to kill the people in Kabul, and so we didn't know that either. And here's another thing. I've talked to some folks that have been in Afghanistan, fighting in Afghanistan, and heard these. There are some horrific stories of these battles that these people were in. But one of the things that I've heard a lot about over the years is the Americans that have fought side by side with the Afghans that were allies of theirs, and the heart that they talk about that these fighters had and the courage that they had. I have heard that a lot.
That's nice to hear. I have.
And their willingness to go out and fight and also be killed. So this week, our president said that the problem was that we shouldn't fight in a civil war, that the Afghans weren't willing to fight for themselves.
Right.
And that's just not true. There was, in the last 7 years, there's been something like 50,000 Afghans that have perished in war, battling in war. I mean, we lost roughly that in Vietnam. You can't say we weren't fighting in Vietnam. We were. There was another 10,000 that was lost before that. So these guys have obviously been fighting, but to say
percentage, though, too small of a percentage. The larger percentage is obviously corrupt. Taliban took over immediately.
Hold on a second. I think that what we're really looking at here, Barry, is that the army was a lot smaller than we thought that it was. Yes. But the people that were there were fighting. It wasn't like they weren't fighting. They were fighting.
They just weren't enough of them.
There weren't enough of them, but you can't say that they weren't willing to fight, because they were. And they were fighting. They were fighting for 20 years. And that was happening.
And then they fought for what, a week when it was left to them?
Hold on a second, because maybe you don't know this, but the Afghan military was holding it together because in the military, you need the modern warfare. Your ground troops need to have intelligence. They need to know what's around them. And the only way to know what's around them is to have air cover. That's how they've been able to maintain things all this time. The Afghans don't have they don't have an air force. That Air Force was 100% the United States. As soon as we pulled out, that got rid of all of their intelligence. In other words, no wonder they lost that quickly. They were sitting ducks, but we didn't know that until after the fact as well. Now, many of our airplanes and helicopters belong to the Taliban. Yeah, this is a problem. And also we had something like 9,000 drones over there. That belongs to the Taliban as well. And so that's awful. How in the world can a small army, the Afghan army, hold a candle to these people that when suddenly the main part of their defense, their intelligence, is wiped out overnight?
I know you want to blame Biden for that, but dude, that's on our military. That's on the generals that were lying to us.
I understand that you're right about that. Yeah. I'm sorry, but Biden's the commander in chief. So
I understand. But it doesn't matter
who the president is.
We have a very corrupt military.
I understand that
political system.
You cannot take responsibility away from the leader.
Okay, fine.
That's how it is.
But that's how it happened.
I agree.
That's the truth. And I'm going to say again,
disagreeing with you.
These bastards should be held on charges of treason. These generals.
And I have to say that, any organization, the top of and when a blunder happens, it doesn't matter what they knew, they're responsible. And they're responsible. That's it. The whole administration is the people that made everyone in our government, in our federal government, doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. This is their fault.
And it goes back
their fault.
The last four
there have been many presidents that have been in charge of this. And they've all screwed up with what were we doing there in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I know what we were doing
to get bin Laden, and then all of a sudden, I mean, as I understood and got my history lesson again, then the next year we go to Iraq. That creates a big dust storm, so to speak, diversion, and then nobody really knew why we were still in Afghanistan after that.
This goes to the main point that you were making earlier that I wholeheartedly agree with is what the heck were we doing over there to begin with? We were after bin Laden, but suddenly we were in a war with the Taliban. We're in Afghanistan. But our mission was to eliminate Al-Qaeda, which I know they were being protected by the Taliban. That's really what we were doing there. But I mean, how long has Osama bin Laden been gone? I mean, how long has Al-Qaeda been not a force?
Right.
We turned it into exactly what you said at the beginning. This was for the military industrial complex. This made a lot of people rich. It made the Cheney family rich. It made a lot of people we'll never know rich. A lot of people have died. But here's one thing that we see is in Afghanistan, we did see where women's rights were taken to a new level, and suddenly those rights are going to be snuffed out. And I can't imagine what the life of those women is going to be like going forward.
It's horrifying. And I know that a lot of us would like to make sensational news about that and suggest that that's our responsibility, but you got the entire rest of the world that's in pretty much the rest of the world that's in the same situation. Count them. I mean, we talk about North Korea, talk about China. You know what? I put notes in here I totally forgot about, but I was doing some research on the human trafficking thing because I brought that up rather
big deal
ignorantly several times. And there's a polarisproject.org. Polaris is operates the U.S. National Human Trafficking Hotline. And in 2019, they worked on 11,500 situations of human trafficking. And they say it is notoriously underreported.
Yes.
As shocking as these numbers are, they're likely to only be a fraction of the real problem. Worldwide, it's expected that nearly 25 million people are currently victims of sex slavery, organ harvesting, and labor slavery. So when we talk about human trafficking, it's horrific. Okay. It affects men, women, and children of all races and cultures. So let's not try to make this a racial culture thing. You can't. So when you want to talk about slavery of 200 years ago, of a culture that is long gone here in the U.S., get real, folks. This is going on right now. Sex slavery of men, women, and children, organ harvesting, people being abducted so that they can be dissected for their organs to be sold. This is disgusting.
It's happening, of
course,
all around
labor
the world.
Slavery. China's notorious for that.
They are. They're notorious for all forms of that kind of slavery.
There you go.
You just said.
But also right here in this country, it is a real problem.
I saw a movie recently, and I don't remember the name of the movie.
I know the movie.
It was a true story about a woman.
The woman that starred in it.
Michael Douglas was in it. Yeah.
I don't remember Michael Douglas, but the woman that starred in it escaped.
Was that actually her?
She was an actress, yeah, and she actually escaped this sex. She was starring in an autobiography.
That's it, right? It's like happened at a gas station or something like that, where she was abducted, and then it was just hell. Her grouped with these other women, and they had them in the back of this truck and everything. It was hell. These poor women, they drugged them up with heroin or something right away, so they couldn't get away. And it turns out this was a true story. And at the end, it had all these statistics, and it was something like 1 million United States women are being abducted every year and brought across that border.
I hate when we just make it a woman thing, because
it isn't just a woman
all
thing,
sexes and children.
It seems that the women are by far the most that they take. For sure. And but you're right. I mean, children, boys and girls are taken, and men are taken into slavery as well. And we've just made it so much more dangerous here since COVID in the border crisis that we've had. And I think we're never going to really know the true damage that's happening. But you're right. When you start taking a look at 1 million a year, every year you compound that, and you look at the Black people who were slaves. I mean, you could start to look at a comparable number of people going into slavery today, today. And
that's
we just
my
don't
point.
Even talk about
and we're talking about this stuff that is ancient history,
right?
A culture that doesn't exist
right now.
Yeah,
and our
we need to deal with reality.
Is the biggest danger on that whole thing, because once they get over that border, they're free. They can do whatever they want, and a lot of it is just right over the border, like this particular movie that we saw. They weren't that far across the border.
And I'll tell you what, Merle, it burns my ass too when we talk about things like Afghanistan and all the various ways that we are just getting fleeced. The middle class is getting fleeced for their money, and we're always trying to make ends meet. That's a form of slavery in and of itself. How hard we got to work and just get robbed, absolutely robbed. And we watch the super rich not even pay any taxes whatsoever, and it's only the middle class. I mean, it's the middle class
the middle class is under attack. is really what's happening here. Is it seems to me that the middle class, there's a contingent that hates the middle class, it seems like, because they're getting punished. And you're right. It's just we just passed a 1.7 or $1 trillion tax bill for infrastructure, and now there's another 3.5 trillion that they're going to pass on a reconciliation.
They just love the fact that we got used to this word trillion.
You're right. I think about that, Barry, because I remember when the
for 1 minute, I lost my dog.
I saw him right behind you just a second ago.
Yeah, he is.
Anyway, it's funny that I know where you're talking.
I heard him bark downstairs or something a minute ago. Oh, that's so cool.
Well, you were talking back to Obama, right? Remember they passed that big stimulus bill. I think it was TARP. Maybe it was Bush, but it was like $950 billion. And I remember they didn't want to put that extra 50 billion in there to call it a trillion because people would freak out.
Yeah.
But then they had to ease into that trillion, right? Like, oh, no, we got them almost a trillion. Let's try a trillion. They like it. Mikey likes it.
Yeah. Now AOC's like, we need 10 trillion.
10 trillion.
Yeah. Why? I don't know.
A gigabillion.
It's ridiculous.
These numbers are sky high, and I mean, we're nearly 30 trillion in debt, and that's unsecured liabilities is astronomical. And unsecured liabilities are the things that we need that like Social Security that we're paying into, but we have a bill to come. It's something like $120 trillion. It's outrageous, like a number that you could never even fathom. And this is all going to be leveraged on future generations. And I mean, imagine being in your household, just when you start out, you inherit just like $1 million of debt. That's like what's going to happen to our kids. I mean, this is happening. It's not a good situation, that's for sure.
It's not. Is there anything else in current events or something like that you want to go over, or should we just lighten this up?
We should go to lighter side at this point
with
the time. Yeah, let's do that.
I got some great stuff. Okay, first I want to share this. I didn't read the full article, but the headlines capture my attention. I did not know this, that I have not gotten enough any good news out of the Olympics except this thus far. Olympia Maria, I could not say her last name, Andrasic, maybe. That's good, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Auctions off her medal to pay for a young boy's surgery. Did you hear about that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, she's Polish Olympian Maria Andrasic earned a silver medal for javelin throw at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. On August 11th, she announced auctioning off her prize medal to help save a young boy's life. And just after 5 days, she did this. She announced the auction on her Facebook page, and she chose to raise the funds for, Milosek, Melissa, an 8-month-old boy who needs to travel from Poland to Stanford University in California to have a life-saving heart surgery. She does not know Melissa, but wrote that she knew his cause was the right choice after reading online pleas for help from his parents. I find this just absolutely fascinating. I mean, so let's talk about, you know what? You didn't say it this almost every podcast you say agape love. Well, here you go. Here's your absolute epitome of agape love. Don't you think, buddy?
Yeah. That's really, really beautiful. And what a beautiful woman, too. I mean, the picture of her. What did she win the silver medal? Oh, javelin. Well, you look at her picture and you don't think, oh, there's a javelin thrower.
No, you're right. No, she looks really pretty in that picture. She is.
Beautiful thing. Here's a woman who's beautiful on the outside.
There you go.
The inside is gorgeous. And look at what she's done. I see this where it was she needed Melissa needed 1.5 million and about $385,000 of art.
The equivalent of
$380 the cost, right? Yeah. And I'm looking to see how much she got for it, but I don't know. I guess she was able to cover the cost.
I think 150 somewhere. I thought it said something like 150,000. I thought I
saw outstanding. What a great thing to do. Man. And I love that. I love to hear a good story come out of the Olympics because we didn't really get a lot of those stories. We only got because usually there's just all these stories will make you cry, and I didn't really pay that much attention this year.
No, I didn't at all. So I'm really happy to see that story.
Me too.
So I'm going to take us out with a music video. It doesn't matter if you're just listening because it's hysterical to listen to. It's Van Waken, and it's called My Jumping Heart. Merle, you are I got to find the share button. There we are. You're going to crack up when you see this. All right. And here we are.
Me down. You got it tough. I see the toughest around. And I know
this is so good.
Baby, just how you feel. You got to roll with the punches and get to what's real. I can't just see me standing here. I got my back against the record machine.
Isn't that great?
That's crazy.
Seen.
This is so cool.
See what I mean? Oh, might as well jump. Might as well jump.
Wow.
Go ahead and jump. Go ahead and jump.
Look at this polka. This is
a square dancing to it.
He screams.
Oh, hey you, who said that? Baby, how you been? You say you don't know, you won't know until you begin. I can't just see me standing here, I got my back against the record machine. I ain't the